Hot mics, stop talking about what you were talking about.
Careful.
Hello, EggChasers. It's the EggChasers Rugby Podcast, the podcast about rugby that doesn't take itself or the game too seriously. Here for you every single week, 52 weeks of the year, and even between Christmas and New Year, here twice, while every other rugby podcast is just thinking they can treat you with the disdain.
Absolute disdain.
Just thinking that it's okay to not put out a podcast. We're putting out 2.
Yeah.
And if you appreciate that, then you can support us by subscribing, by telling a mate, or for more content by going to patreon.com/EggChasers and supporting us there. I'm Tim in the Rugby Dungeon with JB.
Hello, Tim.
Feet, OnlyFans,
Yeah.
OnlyFans feet
They're out.
And Phil.
Hello, Tim. We get what most people have to pay for with JB's
exactly.
feet
A lot of
in
people
the
pay
middle
for
of the studio.
Get it for free. And
Absolutely.
a bottle of Prosecco between the pair of you. Do you want to...
Well, we were spraying that everywhere yesterday after a famous win.
That's one thing I forgot to mention. Jonathan Joseph, bizarrely, about 3 years late, replied to a tweet of ours.
Yeah,
did he?
I saw that.
It was odd. It was like, I think, because we mentioned it on a recent podcast, I think maybe someone at Bath listens or mentioned it. Oh, they were talking about you spraying champagne on the floor, and he might have searched EggChasers champagne on the floor or something like that, and found a tweet from...
Why didn't you just text me?
It was about 5 years.
About 5 years ago.
At least.
And,
Well, what did he say?
said, who made this rumour up? Wasn't it a video? Wasn't it a video that we saw of him pouring champagne on the floor?
I seem to think...
Was it after an England game?
I don't think it was after an England game. I think it was after a Bath game. I seem to remember, and I don't want this to be libelous, but I seem to remember it was an Instagram deleted video, one of the like snap type videos that disappears in 24 hours of, I think it was him pouring a bottle of something onto the floor.
Maybe it was Prosecco, not champagne.
It might have
if
been.
that's the case, we're sorry, Jonathan.
Yeah, it might have been Blanquette de Limoux.
Oh, God.
Blanc,
I can't imagine that Jonathan
Cremant.
Joseph drinks anything like that. I imagine he drinks a Cremant occasionally.
Occasionally.
No. I mean, it's certainly wasn't one of those events that makes me like him less. I like him a lot more. A lot more.
Absolutely.
Well, I'll tell you what, we might do a little extra Patreon podcast where we dig into the Twitter sphere.
Well, I've got a real conspiracy theory.
Which we usually kind of tend to avoid a little bit, but and we might go there with that. But anyway, on this podcast, we're going to be talking about the rugby that's actually happened over the past few days.
Yeah.
And you wanted to talk a little bit about Steve Borthwick as well, JB.
Yeah, well, may as well, because
go on.
he's been appointed the England manager, and we've not actually done anything about this yet. Like,
I think it's because we did speak a lot about it with the assumption that it was going to happen, and it was a case of when, not if.
Yeah, so we're basically like 10 days late on this. So although we're podcasting every hour that God sends continuously, we haven't actually spoke about Steve Borthwick. So
we spoke a lot about him, but not directly as a consequence of he has been taking the job. One thing I'll kick off with, just talking about it, was as someone who interviews him quite a lot, or has done, I was astounded at how open he suddenly was in his first England press conference.
He's not done anything yet, has he?
Well, no, but
does that make sense?
That's by the by. When he hadn't done anything and he first came to Leicester, he was very straight, combative sometimes. Is that the right? Combative, whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes wouldn't be swayed off the message that he wanted to give. And it was, we're on a journey. We're on a journey. And me at Leicester Tigers, very proud, big club. I'm on a journey. and he stuck to that line the whole way. And you kind of have to begrudgingly respect the way that he just stuck to his guns on it.
Do you know,
But he talked about his kids. Yeah. He talked about like emotional stuff that I've never heard him. And I wonder if he's reflected on how he comes across, and now in the biggest job has thought, I need to turn that tap. I need to turn that tap on a little bit.
So whether it's just naturally turning on, because this is the pinnacle. When he first went into coaching, the England job would be seen by him as the ultimate pinnacle of the it's like the final boss of jobs, isn't it? It's the top goal for him, and he's achieved it. So that will elicit emotions within him.
I guess that's true. I do wonder though, because my one of the main jobs my wife does is I I need her help right now. The irony. She works with like chief execs, CEOs, high power business people to try and work on their communication skills so they make impactful statements and manage their PR both externally and within their own companies. And I just looked at Steve Borthwick and I heard it. I thought it was brilliant. But I thought there's a guy that's had someone take. He's got the biggest job of his life, and I reckon he's had some advice.
So I'm going to say something slightly counter to what you said, which is during COVID, I spent a lot of time on Zoom watching Premiership press conferences and listening to what the directors of rugby had to say. Really enjoyed it. And two of the guys that I enjoyed most, actually it changed. It used to be Rob Baxter. Then I kind of switched over to Alex Sanderson, got a little bit bored of that, but consistently it was always Steve Borthwick. And the reason was he would never rise to the terrible questions like, how do you feel about this thing? Is there a little bit of a rivalry when you go to Northampton? Is this a bigger game for you somehow? Do you think the emotions of such and such game will get, because people are looking for stories which aren't really there. But every time he was asked a rugby question or a coaching question, he gave a really good rugby or coaching answer. So I really appreciated that because I'm not really there to write stories. I'm there to sort of pick up what he wants to do so I can talk about it contextually with you two. And I found that much, much more interesting than what anyone else said because you got a real feel of what they were doing.
Yeah, but if you watch the England one, I actually agree with you on that. When you talk about rugby, it's a bit like Johnny Wilkinson, actually. If he's talking about rugby, he'll talk for days. And I'd love to have a pint with Johnny Wilkinson and just chat about rugby. But if you sort of go off rugby, I think it sort of comes to a dead end quite quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
But actually, this is what I mean. He was talking about his kids.
That's true.
He was making jokes. It was great.
Well, here's the thing which he said, which really resonated with me. And I don't know if it was purposeful in the same way that when Eddie Jones purposely went and got Dylan Hartley to be his captain, which is one of the biggest pokes in the eye, really, to the Stuart Lancaster regime. Borthwick said, every game matters. And to me, that was such a breath of fresh air. And I was thinking, yeah, I really believe in this guy. I think, although it's cost, about the same as the Ukraine war to employ him, I think it might be money well spent. I think it might be money really well spent. So
I'm more. I was always in the Eddie Jones camp, but I am more coming into. I'm more excited by the Borthwick appointment. Not necessarily because I think they'll play exciting rugby.
They won't in the Six Nations. They'll play. They'll play Leicester rugby pragmatic.
But that is exciting, isn't it? Why is that not exciting?
Well,
I'm not complaining.
Yeah. I just want exactly the point that you just made, that Borthwick made. I want every game to matter. I want to see a chance of winning every single game, and it to be heartbreaking when they don't. Not like when Eddie Jones was flippant about
Judge
losing
me on the World Cup, mate.
Yeah, losing against Argentina at home.
Not good enough.
And judge me on the World Cup, and also it doesn't really matter. That isn't good enough.
It's not, is it? It's not. And I don't like the idea. And I know you don't mean it like this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I just don't like the idea that the rugby he plays isn't exciting. I mean, that Premiership final with limited points was super exciting because of the pressure cooker that Leicester can create.
No, but so when we use the word exciting, we let's change it to expansive. It's not going to be expansive.
Yeah, great. Go watch Level 7 for that. There's some great, super expansive rugby, one-sided scores. In fact, the Premiership in September will do that for you.
Well,
this is big boy rugby.
Well, there's a difference, isn't there? Because when New Zealand won those 2 back-to-back World Cups, they kicked more than anybody else. But when they had the opportunities, their execution was better than anybody else, and they took every chance they had. And that's exactly where France are kind of at right now. They still kick a lot, but when they have opportunities, they can turn it on.
And I think you've made a good point there, because I think Leicester Tigers are not the finished article in that respect. So their decision-making to get into those positions is superb. Still is superb. I suspect that legacy will continue. Where they let themselves down slightly is in their execution, with the exception of lineouts. So they are the team with the most tries from lineouts.
Even more than Gloucester?
I was going to come to that. The exception would be Gloucester's driving lineout. Right. But the launch plays from lineouts are also incredibly good, more so than Gloucester. So second most to Gloucester on driving mauls. and then most in the Premiership when it comes just to moving the ball off a line-out.
Anything else on Borthwick specifically?
No, just I'm very, very interested to see how the Six Nations goes.
His first squad's going to be fascinating.
And
isn't it?
the squad, because there'll definitely be some players who I'll let go. He's not going to keep exactly the same squad that Eddie had last time around.
I think it's the return of Ford.
Ford will be interesting.
George Ford,
he
has not played his last game for England.
No, he has not.
Yeah, I agree with that. If George Ford getting fit, so will he be fit in time for the Six Nations?
Well, apparently he will be. Should be fit now, any day now.
Yeah, that'll be interesting because you want him to have a few games before, don't you?
Yes,
You don't want him the 6th of Feb or whenever the first game is. That's his first game.
Yeah, he is up against it time wise.
Yeah, but that'll be interesting what they do.
Dan Kelly,
you could actually see with Borthwick just putting Farrell at 10, and
I'd be astonished if he doesn't put Farrell at 10.
Yeah,
who's his captain? I mean, presumably
that is the question. I think Ellis Genge, but that is the question.
Genge was captain under Borthwick.
Yeah. And
Leicester.
also, I think I love Owen Farrell, and I think he will be England's fly half in the Six Nations. I'd be astonished if that's not the way Borthwick goes, particularly with the pragmatic game he's going to play, but also because Farrell is the best English 10 in my opinion, arguably the best in the world. But the captain, I think you saw in the Saracens game, that's not getting on the right side of referees is not Owen Farrell's strength.
Do you think it's Ellis Genge's strength?
That's a good question.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, like, all of the England captain choices are pretty abrasive. Even Courtney's a bit
I mean,
on the abrasive side.
Could be Tom Curry. I don't think it'll be Maro Itoje. I want Maro Itoje to start playing well. He has not played. He has not been Maro Itoje that we know for a while now.
Maro's a bit of an arse. Let's not, and I don't mean that in a personal manner. I mean the way he plays the game. He's a pest.
Oh yeah, we love him for it.
Yeah. So if he's on the wrong side continuously,
same way. I love Owen Farrell for being belligerent.
Although maybe do you give him like the captain's card so he can do that, in the way that you give it to Richie McCaw, yeah,
invisibility cloak.
So he just falls over the wrong side of rucks and whatnot.
Yeah,
it's an idea. I don't think Tom Curry is captain material. No, I think he is captain material. But I think again the way he plays is so aggressive and abrasive. There's no one who really just does their job perfectly with no mistakes and no errors, except for Courtney, maybe. Yeah, probably Courtney Laws is.
Courtney Laws comes back in, he'd be a great captain.
Yeah. So that would be, but he's not played for a long time. And Launchbury would be perfect. Absolutely perfect, but he's in Japan.
Yeah.
So that's not a thing.
That's no good.
One thought. I can't remember where I saw this or heard someone. Did I hear someone say it? Was it a conversation in a pub? I can't remember, but I've been thinking about it the last few days. One statement selection that there would be that would make everyone go, this is a new era, and also this is a guy that is willing to make really tough decisions for the good of the team. Ben Youngs.
Gone.
Imagine that.
Or Ben Youngs becomes captain. He'd be a good captain, actually.
It could go either way, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Both of those things could happen.
That will be interesting.
Well, the scrum half position and the 12 position will be the two, I think, which will really decide if Borthwick's going to be successful. And I think that's where he's got the most room to put his stamp on the team as well.
Because the obvious thought is that, he loves George Martin. The obvious thought is George Martin's going to come in the squad. Ollie Chessum's going to come into the squad. Dan Kelly's going to come into the squad.
Let me ask you a question.
But he cannot do that, though, can he? He's England coach. He can't just go heavy Leicester.
Well, Leicester are heavy by design. And I think
Dan Cole will probably come back.
Yeah.
Potentially,
but he's going to have to be careful about that, isn't he?
Yes.
Harmony in the squad and everything.
You think back to... well, it's happened at least twice that I'm aware of. In Australia, they had... Who was the captain? Was it Scott Moore, the hooker Moore?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, they made him captain.
Yeah. Is it because...
The Waratahs Brumbies nonsense.
Yeah. And like in Ireland, Rory Best was captain because he wasn't Leinster and Munster.
Yeah.
So you can see... you've got to be careful not to favourite... be accused of favouritism towards one side. This is slightly different in the Borthwick example, but the favouritism would still be there.
Well, I mean,
potentially.
Last time England played favourites, they won a World Cup, didn't they? Most of the Leicester squad.
There's a fair few Leicester.
So
few
Youngs,
Wasps.
7 in the squad.
7, is that all there
I think it
was?
was 7 or 8 in the squad.
So-
Martin Corrie, Martin Johnson, Neil Back, Dorian West,
Ben Kay,
Okay.
Ben Kay,
Moody.
Lewis Moody, and there was another.
Did Julian White play for Leicester at that
Julian
point?
White. 8. Is that 8?
Was he? Yeah, but Julian White wasn't.
He might have played for Bristol at that time.
But also, he wasn't in the 23 for the final.
No.
He would be in the wider squad, probably.
Was there a back somewhere?
Healy didn't make the cut of the squad.
No, he didn't make the squad.
No, I'm just
Good
trying-
wasn't in the squad. Leon Lloyd wasn't in the
I think
squad.
that's it. I may be wrong, but I think it was 8. 7 or 8.
trying to think if there's another centre or something. No, maybe there wasn't.
No.
Maybe they were all forwards. Now, remember when I mentioned up-and-coming young Englishman?
James Wilson.
James Wilson. Do you remember when I said that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and young Englishman James Wilson never made it to the heights of the England team like I expected.
Yeah, 34-year-old Kiwi.
Yeah, well, we all make mistakes. Am I making the same mistake with Harry Wells? Is he South African or something?
No, I think he is English. He's not very young. But
How
He's
old
about,
is he?
he's about 28, 29, but that's
The boy's
fine.
a monster.
Yeah, and you quite often miss. I think you make the same mistake I do, where you think, "Oh, there's George Martin."
Yeah, and that must be George Martin. That's why they love him so much, because he's manhandling people everywhere. So no,
Yeah.
it's Harry Wells. And
He's an ever-present in that team.
I do wonder if George Martin's reputation has been enhanced somewhat by people looking at Harry Wells going, that is one hell of a player.
Yeah.
like George
He's all
Martin."
over the place, especially
Oh,
when they're both
word.
playing. He's
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah, look at that hairstyle.
And he's only 20 years old. so Harry Ronald Wells
Yeah.
is he was born in Peterborough.
Yep.
And he was born in 1993, so he's 29. He will be 30 at the next World Cup.
Perfect
Right,
age.
He's
prime
also
age.
this is his Wikipedia listed height and weight.
Go on, what's his
I would
size?
go 6'6" and 118.
Just get his Leicester Tigers to confirm it. Yeah, so 6'5", 196 centimetres.
100, okay.
And
weights?
they've got him as 120 kilos.
That's good
So-
enough.
So just shy of 19 stone.
That's good enough. I love that boy. Throw him in. Throw him in. I just don't understand why nobody mentions him. It's like he doesn't even exist.
He's never been mentioned in the conversation.
Not even by us. But mind you, we've always thought he was George Martin. So
Yeah, true.
The only real challenging thing for Steve Borthwick is that he's not going to have available to him one of England's best performing scrum halves, Richard Wigglesworth.
yes, big problem. That
I think Wiggy, I'm certain that Wiggy at some point will put his boots back on again. So he will do the dual player manager.
I can't see that.
Just because
If there's another injury, maybe, but no, I don't think so.
I think you could have Van Portfleet and or Ben Youngs in the England squad, and then an injury,
and maybe a Premiership final. He
and then a Premiership. Yeah,
I would.
So I
I
can
would
see
not
him-
be surprised if they've already wrapped up a signing of someone new
Someone.
because you just have to. Well, firstly, his salary cap won't.
Yeah,
money
salary
will be
won't count.
available now. They have injury dispensation as well, don't they? But
Well,
and England money if both are involved.
he was already a player coach, wasn't he? So
Yeah.
some of his salary would have already been on the coaching side.
True.
I don't know how that would work.
I don't know how that'd work actually.
It's probably
Okay.
pretty tricky because of all the connected payments.
Yeah,
Like
they're all coaches now.
the salary. Yeah, exactly. The salary cap they try and cut
I mean,
down on.
Sale could have legitimately said that Bryn Evans was a coach for a long time.
Well, like Owen
Why not?
Farrell or George Ford.
Yeah,
They are just they definitely do coaching.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
maybe if you're a player coach, you are
George
just a
Ford
player.
has literally done nothing for Sale but coach.
Yeah.
Today, he's done nothing.
But
I
Yeah,
think,
no,
I
I-
think we'll see Wiggy with his
and we
boots
saw
on.
what happened when Jack Singleton got a serious injury.
Yeah,
Gloucester just expedited what I assume was a
it was already
transfer that was probably
yeah.
lined up for the end of the season. They just went, right, well, we've got an injury.
Yeah.
You can manage with that, and can we have him now? Leicester may have already... Because they would have been banking, I'm sure, on Wiggy not necessarily being available next year or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe they'd already...
was-
They might already have someone in mind.
So
they probably have, and it's not as if there's a shortage of
Yeah,
available
exactly.
players.
the other element of England that we need to talk about is Kevin Sinfield. Now, can anyone tell me anything about Kevin Sinfield other than he's inspiring? Because if not, we can just move on, I guess.
Rugby league. Everyone thinks he's a Yorkshireman, but he's not.
Is he not?
He's
No,
from
he
Oldham.
lives in Saddleworth,
Saddleworth.
actually.
He's Lancastrian.
Yes.
Proud Lancastrian. Other than that, and he is incredibly inspiring.
We can't say that because everyone said that. So
other than inspiring, other than saying he's inspiring, I'll say he's really, really inspiring.
Yeah, really. I just think yes, he's
top inspirer.
I mean, he's an inspiring bloke, but I somehow think it might, in a way, cloud our judgment of his rugby coaching to a point that I don't think I'd be. I mean, I'm happy to be inspiring. I know I inspire a lot of people. But when people say, why is JB such a great podcaster? I don't want them to say because he inspires me. Tell me exactly why I am knowledgeable. So I can see Sinfield turning into the next Sean Edwards. That's how I kind of see it going. Specialist defence coach for the ages.
Northern, Lancastrian,
Rugby League. That's what they do, isn't it?
So Sinfield, I think the end of his career was interesting, the end of his playing career, because he made the conscious decision to go and play for Leeds Tykes or whatever they were called at the time, Yorkshire Carnegie.
Yep.
I think he only played 12 months there.
I don't think he had many games either.
No, but do you know what position he played there?
10, wasn't it?
Yeah, he played 10. But I think it was a conscious decision. I'm not sure if I read this or I just put two and two together, that the coaching possibilities, salaries in Rugby League are X, and the coaching salaries in rugby union are X times 2 or X plus Y. They're higher in rugby union.
I've always thought we've got to be very careful with rugby league because rugby union gets so much not British. Let's be very precise. English rugby union gets so much from rugby league, but you can only burgle a house once. So once you've taken all of that talent away from rugby league, who's going to backfill the ranks of rugby league so they can take it again? It's sort of like farming, but then killing all of your livestock in one go. You've got to keep some of them alive to procreate,
to breed,
to get the next animal, and then the next. But if we're busy taking everything which comes out of rugby league, it's a problem because Sean Ray, have I made that name up?
Sean Ray.
What's his name? Wigan coach, Sean. He went to Scotland.
Name doesn't matter. Yeah.
I know who you mean.
Yeah, obviously Sean Edwards. What the hell's his name? Can't remember his name now. Escaped me. Never mind.
Yeah,
that'll be right. The flip side is it could also work like I know there's a threshold and there's a balance, but it could work like your theory on what you would like to see with Wales. Let all the good players go so you can
keep coming through.
Have more opportunities.
Yeah, I guess so.
Have more opportunities.
There's plenty of opportunity in rugby league.
I mean, the best players, or some of the best players in English rugby union, have come from English rugby league, and you've effectively not completely built the house on that talent, but a lot of it. Sinclair, Ford, Farrell. I know. Sinclair.
Sinfield.
Kyle.
Eastman.
Thank you, not Kyle.
Andy Farrell, Owen Farrell.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now I know
Chris
that these
Ashton,
guys.
Sam Burgess.
Yeah, I know these guys. Well, most of them have not played a single second of professional rugby league, but in another world, they would 100% be representing somebody.
Yeah.
100%,
definitely.
Just maybe to. How was I going to segue to the Leicester game? I can't remember.
Try this now. The Leicester game.
All right, let's talk about the Leicester game. There was something that connected Borthwick.
He used to coach Leicester.
Doesn't matter. But yeah, all the games we've seen over the last few days. Actually, no. Before we go to that, you just mentioned Harry Wells being 6'5", and we were talking about second rows just aren't shorter than 6'5".
That is true.
Yeah.
Ethan
John Banfield emailed contact@eggchasers@gmail.com.
Oh, nice.
And said he got a list of second rows with international caps who are under 6'5".
Wow.
So I think I either made this point or thought this point.
Yes.
Top tier 1 nations, you might see them playing for Japan or for Spain, but you will very rarely.
Brad Shields.
Oh, it's very, very rare.
I bet Brad Shields is 6'5".
Yeah, he is 6'5". Yeah. Billy Holland, Munster and Ireland, 6'3".
Oh,
really?
Small.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Japan, obviously you mentioned.
Yeah.
There's one there. We're going to strike that one. Mike McCarthy, Leinster and Ireland, 6'4". Andrew Coombs, Dragons and Wales, 6'4". Another Japan one, not going to count. Francisco Minto, Benetton in Italy. 6'4". Huh. And Alessandro Zanni, who is back row, but
but can do a job.
Kind of done a job. He's 6'4".
Yeah.
What was Martin Corrie?
6'6".
Oh. Was he really?
Yeah.
Corrie was big.
Big, strong boy.
Yeah, so, do you want to talk about the biggest game of the week?
Yes, I would like to hear, because Phil is a bit weak, a bit fragile today.
Yes.
It's all his tries he scored.
Because Phil and JB, I forgot I was working, so I couldn't play in this, but I was playing Bon Jovi to the Nation instead. I'd love to have been at the mighty Sedgley Tigers. And you played on the first team pitch as well.
Yeah. Oh,
It wasn't frozen off.
In the post,
Yeah.
in the post-Christmas annual game, which is what, a kind of mixed second thirds against old vets, old boys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Legends team.
Legends team.
What other legends played with you? Was Phil the legend?
He was a legend.
No, much better
I
players
tell
than
you
me.
what, there's a guy who played for them. You'll know his name. I don't know his name. The hooker. Tell him about the accolade.
I don't actually know I can't remember his name, but he's got the try-scoring record for national leagues.
In one season.
For Sedgley.
He played.
He's gone to Amptill.
I think I know that guy. I think he played. Oh no! How old is he now? Is he still?
Oh, young. So he's still
Oh, he's
playing.
young.
He must
still
be
playing.
okay.
Well, he played for us, so he must be 35, right?
No, it was. There was no. It wasn't an official vets team.
Oh, was it not?
okay.
No.
All right, it's not who I thought it was. Then.
Oh, right. Yeah, he did look a bit young.
Yeah,
actually, to be
yeah.
fair.
No, I bet he's like 26 or 28 or something.
So where did you play, Jay? What position?
Bit tired prop, a bit wing.
Yeah.
Classic.
So JB came on twice for me on the wing and also played tight head prop. Once because I, in the first tackle I've made for 18 months, immediately lost a contact. So I had to go inside and change it. So JB had 5 minutes on the wing there. And then the last 3 minutes, I kind of rolled my ankle. So JB went back on the wing. And with his first touch of being back on the wing, scored a 50-metre try.
Yeah, we nearly scored a worldie as well, an absolute worldie. From it was very similar to when Pinot breaks down the wing. You know, Pinot and
Soon to be Bordeaux's Pinot.
yeah, Pinot goes down the wing. I think it's Pinot. It might have actually been Entamac come down and then performs a little switch. So I do my little steps, going down the wing, throw the ball to Ermi, is it?
Ermo scrum half.
My
Former
pass,
Sedbergh.
Yeah, my pass is just a little bit behind him. Otherwise, he's in for a try, and it is world class. I think Sedgley is signing me right there. Right there.
So Matt Gallagher is the hooker.
Yes, that's him.
So this is a article on him at the end of last season. So 23rd of May 22. So this year he's 22.
What?
So he's
Very much not a vet.
he's definitely not
Does
a
he have a
vet.
tough paper around then that you thought he could potentially
be a vet.
Well, that was just because I assumed everyone was over 35.
Pretty much everyone else. Like some of the boys. There's
One guy must have been close to 60.
yeah. So Matty Alcock. He's probably 50. And
Were there any
Chunk's
like
probably
proper
50.
old war horses?
Yeah, most of
the
Tell you what,
and a few of the second, third team.
Were there any
Third, fourth team.
neoprene knee supports?
no, nothing like that. I tell you what, though, for those games, those Christmas Day games, which are a bit of a laugh, sometimes the standard can be pretty shocking. Now, I'm sure Phil won't say it is the highest standard, but it was just the right standard to be entertaining enough.
It was entertaining.
Yeah, some of the carries were very heavy. Some of the tackling was a little light.
Yes,
That's what I'd say.
that's definitely true. I always find those games like there's a lot of elbows and knees in the carries. Like there's a lot of ungainly carries from both sides because you've got kind of second, third, fourth team on one side of the equation, and then you've got guys who've not played for 5 years. Like most of the boys on our team, on the Legends team, it was like chatting with them before the game. Like when did you last play? Or this game last year? Or this game 2 years ago, or this game 3 years ago.
That's great that it happens.
Yeah.
There's nothing like that at Broughton Park. Is there anything like that at
No,
Disney
because
Chalk H? That's
no one
quite-
lives there.
That's a special thing, though, that. Well
But-
done, Sedge.
It's good, and there was a decent turnout as well.
It was, yeah. And I'll tell you another thing which is interesting. The amount of massive blokes on the sideline at Sedge. I mean, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. Just huge men. So, yeah, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's that they've consistently played at a higher level, and therefore you just need bigger men, but they're huge.
Mm. Even the
I'm talking about the crowd.
there's a few big boys. There's a few old boys who should have laced up their boots but didn't in the crowd.
Yeah. There were some, not many big tackles, but watching from the sideline, I wouldn't have liked to have played the veterans or the legends. Not one bit. But some of the hits were.
There was a few big hits.
Yeah, they weren't consistent good
No,
tackles, but
no.
there was one hit by by the prop.
Ben Black.
He just absolutely slammed someone. And this guy's like 120 kilograms. He's enormous.
Who the guy he slammed or the
No, he is
Black,
enormous, and he just absolutely
Ben Black
collides with someone. It's like, oh my word!
And
Ben
then-
Black is way over 120 kilograms.
Oh.
way
And then
way
by the- and
over
then by the-
120 kilograms.
By just looking at Phil, he won the third half. Am I right?
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right.
we had
hey, no, I was in the gym this morning at 6 a.m.
Oh, we had a few beers afterwards. My ankle is knackered. I was debating at one point today actually going for an X-ray on it because it's killing me.
This is what
I think
scares
it's
me about
loosened-
rugby because
Loosened up a bit.
Because doesn't it? This is what scares me about playing those vets rugby games. Is like you could miss a few weeks of CrossFit sessions.
Yeah, one day I'll
Yeah.
get injured,
Devastating.
but not today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be missing a few CrossFit sessions, boys. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Oh, actually, that reminds me. We had an email, contact@eggchasers@gmail.com from a CrossFit and rugby fan who listens,
Excellent. The best type of fan.
Benjamin Fisher, who he's moved to New Zealand from the UK, living over there in New Zealand, and him and his wife both joined a CrossFit gym, and he now gets the hype. And he's also had his first Negroni recently.
Oh,
and, says
well
it's
Well
strong.
done.
He says, on the Christmas show, you spoke about the most famous person you'd seen at the gym. I just finished at the gym yesterday. This was writing yesterday, so a couple of days ago. So this would have been Boxing Day. So on Boxing Day, he went to the gym and saw R.D. Surveyor.
That's cool.
Nice.
Strolling
that is
in.
cool.
Guess what R.D. Surveyor's first activity that he does, the first thing he does in the gym?
I think it's going to be something with a rubber band around his legs going sideways or something like that. An abductor sort of stretch.
Warm up.
Oh, RD Surveyor. Yeah,
Yeah.
Possibly.
It could well be that. It might be something as simple as like get on the cross trainer for a few minutes just to loosen off. But then, so he's not playing right now, so he won't have any niggles, so he should be fairly loose. And it's summertime, so shouldn't need a massive warm up. I'm going to say he just went in and did my classic warm up, 10 chin-ups.
You're not far off, Phil.
Arm curls.
Wrist curls.
Phil's closer.
Oh.
He was
Muscle ups.
a muscle up.
Muscle up, of course.
R.D.
he did.
Surveyor walked in the gym straight onto bar muscle ups.
That's exactly what
Of course he did.
What a boy! He doesn't care for he has no care for his rotator cuffs whatsoever.
I do.
Just get
Overrated.
he also says, does Ben, obviously having come from the UK, now over in New Zealand, he says rugby is so accessible in New Zealand. He's going to be going to watch the Hurricanes, Phil's beloved Canes, for just £10.
Oh.
Not bad.
But yeah,
Well,
when I was in Durban, watched the Jaguares versus the Sharks a few years ago, it was like pence. Obviously, part of that is the exchange rate, but it can't have been more than about £8 a ticket.
Yeah.
But even like you occasionally read about like the price of football in Germany, for example, compared to the price of UK. Whereas UK, you're paying 80 to 100 quid kind of starting point for tickets for a Premier League game for a decent team, and
Try and get last minute Liverpool United tickets. You're upwards of £1,000.
yeah,
Way over £1,000.
yeah, comfortably, hundreds and hundreds of pounds if you're doing things last minute for big games. But like most of the German teams are again £10, 12 quid starting prices.
Same goes, I think rugby in France is very affordable.
Very affordable, yeah.
Food for thought there. But as for the games we just saw over the Christmas period, I can tell you Welford Road it wasn't full, it wasn't a total sellout, but there was 22,000 people there.
Not bad.
The atmosphere was ace. I gathered the first half wasn't that entertaining to watch on the telly.
No, I disagree. I loved it.
I loved the whole game. It felt like a proper Premiership match. I
Right, ding-dong.
loved it. I loved it.
Yeah, I'm very much in your camp. I don't know what it is. It was just entertaining. The first half flew by. I thought, bloody hell, that was good. And I don't know, I can't really put my finger on what it was. I mean, do we know what the ball and play time was or some such thing?
Well, there was a lot of back and forth kicking without the ball going to touch.
Yeah. Yeah, there was actually.
And Leicester seemed to just get the best of that territorial battle, which I think is what you're going to see in the Six Nations with England very much.
But the halftime was it was one penalty from Hastings, two penalties from Freddie Burns, and then the Tuisui try
Right at the end.
in the corner.
Yeah, Leicester had their disallowed try, and then
That's right.
because Dan Cole held in Tuisui, so he couldn't be the defender.
That's right.
And then Tuisui went and scored, and there wasn't another angle.
Yeah. What was the feeling like inside the ground on that try? Because it looked to me like it was. I'm not sure I'd be comfortable giving it.
There was nothing conclusive, so the on-field decision was tried.
Yes.
Now, ordinarily, at rugby grounds, I don't know what the politics or what the background... I'm just saying what I know, having worked at lots of Premiership grounds. Ordinarily, there is a camera behind the try line, one of the big cameras, behind the try line on each corner. Because Welford Road's so tight, that would probably have to take out maybe 3 or 4 seats, 4, 5, 6 seats to accommodate that camera. There isn't a camera there at Welford Road. I don't know whether that's the broadcaster. I don't know whether that's Leicester saying, no, we're not giving you that space. But whatever the case is, there was not that angle which would have shown conclusively whether Tuisui was in touch or not.
Whether it was a try or not.
So if that's because Leicester won't give the space over, I don't know. But if that's then they've only got themselves to blame on that one.
Well, quite. Okay, so both of those things are important because the first half was quite competitive. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But when I was thinking back about the game, there is a version of this match where Leicester absolutely hammer Gloucester. Because that Tuisui try doesn't go in. Mm-hmm. Dan Cole's not an idiot. Mind you, maybe they don't score, to be fair. So, you chalk.
Yeah, it
chalk
just gets given and not looked back.
Yeah.
But so there's a 14 points or whatever, 10
12
points. 12 points.
Yeah, it could be a very different scoreline. So you come away thinking, yeah, that was a pretty competitive game in some areas. It actually wasn't that competitive.
No, Gloucester couldn't get their driving maul going.
Nope.
Leicester, the pressure they put on you territorially with that kicking game and the kick chase is just... It's relentless.
Well, that's how you win games.
Good at it, yeah.
Yeah. And then Anthony Watson back to...
Oh, his footwork's awesome now.
He looked back to his best.
He did.
But actually, he looks back to his best when he was playing for England and the Lions. Because I was watching this, and he scored a cracking try. I can't remember which game it was. Was it Claremont or the Ospreys?
The last game against Ospreys.
Yeah.
I think it was.
He might have scored a few cracking tries.
Yeah.
But Bath haven't seen this Anthony Watson for about 6 years. He looks back to his absolute
He looks like he's enjoying himself.
Well, he has got Aled Walters, the conditioning guy.
Yeah.
If you want another little feather in Aled Walters' cap, who's one of the most valuable coaches in world rugby, Anthony Watson playing the way he is another.
That's an interesting point, yeah, because he looks fantastic.
Yeah. It just shows you don't have to play. I mean, winning rugby is enjoyable rugby, despite what people may think about the style or the amount of kicking or whatnot. Players just want to win, and that's how you get Anthony Watson playing like he does now, rather than that star-studded Bath team that did nothing.
Didn't actually
years.
Yeah, they didn't win anything.
Yeah, Gloucester will not be happy. Having rested everyone for Leinster and gone, as fully loaded as they could, they'll be unhappy because they've got 2 injuries. Santi Carreras and Lewis Rees-Summit don't look like good injuries.
Nope. No, they don't, do they?
And that's 2 of their back 3.
I enjoyed seeing Seb Atkinson get a run out.
Yeah, he's looked good recently.
He's decent, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's a very, very decent player.
Second best Atkinson at Gloucester.
Yes.
But that's about it for the positives for Gloucester. Not a lot to write home about that. And we can't go any further into this game without mentioning Ed Slater.
Of course.
The first Slater Cup.
Is it the first? Hang on. Is it the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah. It only got announced to kind of start of this season.
I think the return fixture's the return fixture's only in a couple of months' time. It's not long till the game back at Kingsholm. But Gloucester will be all right. They've Leicester and Gloucester have both played 6 away games out of their 10.
Okay, so Ultimate Rugby says that Gloucester are still ahead of them in the league. Is that right?
Is that right? I think
Wasps the second.
Not according to the table that I'm looking
Leicester
at.
Should have gone above them.
Incredible.
So Leicester on 28 points and Gloucester on 26.
Right, let me bring up a non-Ultimate Rugby.
Go to Tribe.
Tribe's good.
That app of choice of the pod.
I don't know why I do it. I do it every year. Every week. Podcast, sorry.
Every week.
I do the same stuff.
But no, I think that could be relevant, the fact that Gloucester have only played 4 home games. Which means that in the second half of the season they're going to have... hold on, how many games are the people going to have? 10. So they've got 6. They'll have 6 home games.
Yes, there's 11, so 10 more games.
So I think with isn't it interesting this week? The games around the festive period, the top 3 teams lost to the bottom 3 teams.
Yeah, and there was. I was going to say there was a few upsets because of the Sale going away to Newcastle losing.
Ridiculous result that.
14-0 up as well.
Bristol beating Harlequins and Saracens going to London Irish and losing relatively comfortably in the end.
Yeah.
I couldn't even bring myself to watch the highlights of the Sale game. Just couldn't do it.
They were cruising. I saw the score 14-0 and thought,
yeah.
Oh well,
that's it. Yeah.
They'll hold on there. But yeah, fair play Newcastle. Matteo Carreras, what a player!
Yeah,
he's potentially player of the season. I'm thinking at the halfway point, the contenders for player of the season are Ben Earl, Matteo Carreras. I'm trying to think. I think that might just be those two.
Elliot Daly's been good this
Elliot
year.
Daly as well. Yes,
Matteo Carreras can stay at Newcastle. It'd be a crime against
they've got the 3 Argentinians, so maybe that will help
Rooney.
them.
How long is his deal? It must only be 12 months, surely. They can't have locked this guy up for a 3-year deal. They can't have done that. Surely not.
Who knows?
I mean, he sort of showed up not out of nowhere, but it was a bit of a surprise that he plays for the start
A
with.
sevens player and sort of fringe Argentinian international, and he's made himself a full-on Argentinian.
He's going to get
international,
someone in France is going to pick him up for a lot of money. A lot of money.
Yeah. I'll tell you who else could be, although he's probably not played that many games because of Worcester. But Ollie Lawrence, I think when he's played since he's been at Bath, I think he's looked absolutely class. I really like Santiago Carreras from what I've seen of him so far this year. Trying to think who else. Krista Schunzer at Exeter could be in for a shout.
Well, I mean,
and Caden Murley probably as well, although not really this week, but he's been playing quality so far this year.
I think for Sale, like the Dupree boys have been
Rob Dupree.
Yes.
If you were going to pick at this halfway stage, if you were going to pick a Premiership team of the season, Rob Dupree's the fly half.
If you were, I'd go for that.
Yeah. Weirdly,
it's like if you were.
Hang on. Let me just think about
What parallel universe are we living in?
Yeah. What's going on here?
It's like when you have a £500 bottle of wine compared to a £6 bottle of wine. If you know it's a £500 bottle of wine, you'll think it tastes better. If you do a blind taste test, you won't be able to tell. So if Rob Dupree was wearing a Marcus Smith mask for all of these games,
you'd be
You'd be like, player. Marcus Smith is the best. And he peels like a Scooby-Doo episode.
So I'm just going to go through the team.
He peels off the Marcus Smith mask.
So notorious Englishman Paddy Jackson hasn't probably lived up to the hype this season. Well, no, his team haven't.
He's played every minute of every Premiership game for like the last 3 years.
Yeah. But they're not winning, are they? So let's just say no for now.
He's an incredibly valuable player.
Yeah. But Saracens, they've rotated all their fly halves. Doesn't really matter. Newcastle.
Owen Farrell has looked great when he's played there, but he's missed a lot of his
games.
So Rob Dupree's been there all the time.
Rob Dupree, well, we spoke about him. Exeter, they sort of rotate as well. I don't think.
And Simmons has been all right, but he's very standard.
Yeah, or Skinner is the other one that they've been using.
Sheedy and
not
McGinty.
used him as much this year, I don't think. Skinner.
Sheedy McGinty, nothing to write home about there.
Yeah.
Bath. I don't even know. Is this
Orlando Bailey. Or...
it started as Pierce Francis.
Yeah, Francis has played
to Bailey at the weekend.
So Gloucester, I have liked Hastings. I think Hastings
and Carreras
pretty good, actually.
Both played great when they've played there.
But RDP, he's the one halfway point of the season. RDP.
Yeah,
wow.
Tommaso Allen and Marcus Smith have been all right. Yeah,
crikey.
What would be is that the best accolade for George Ford as a coach? Because that could be like Sanderson said.
Genuinely, maybe
Sanderson gave the credit to Rob Dupree's improvement in form on Sanderson playing him at 13, so he can learn to attack the line a bit more. But it might be the fact that you've got one of the best thinkers, the best 10s in the world and best thinkers in the game saying, no, Rob, stand here.
Yeah.
Pass like this.
What are you doing, Robert? Sanderson says a lot of things, an awful lot of things. I don't know what is true. I don't know what is false. I don't know what works. I don't know what I simply don't know what the truth is.
Any other like standout? We mentioned sort of get half a dozen. Any other real standout players this season so far?
Val Rapava Ruskin.
Yes, great shout.
For scrimmaging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his general play around the park.
Some of his loose play is excellent as well.
I'm trying to think of one of the Tigers deserves it. I always get confused between Potter and Porter, but I'm always impressed with both. Stewart, I'm impressed with him some of the time, but not all the time. I think every third catches it. He's a bit like the Faf de Klerk of fullbacks. Every third intervention is a disaster. But the other two are solid.
But maybe for Tigers, the most important player for this half of the season has been Liebenberg.
Yeah, he's been excellent.
Because he's everywhere. As he plays all the time, and he's everywhere. When he
He's
plays, he
done
does
very,
so much.
very well for Tigers, who's not really spoke about much, but Ollie Cracknell has forced his way into an almost continual starting berth.
Yeah.
Well, except when Jasper Wiese is not
Wiese's
injured.
Yeah, but he's filled in really well, and he plays across the back row.
I agree.
You know,
I
and
agree.
he absolutely bangs.
He's a good player, Cracknell.
Yeah.
Good value.
You mentioned the Sale game, so you couldn't bring yourself to watch it.
Not really, no.
The Mateo Carreras try.
Just brushing off big old men. Like they're not
yeah.
there.
It was two of the forwards, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was Dan Dupree and one other. I
I think it was the hooker. Was it Ashman?
it was Ackerman. It was
Ash-
Van der Merwe.
Was it Van der Merwe?
I think he was on at the time.
Yeah, it was whoever
It might
was
have been
playing the
Ashman.
hooker.
Whatever.
But two guys who are much bigger and stronger, but because of his acceleration and his low centre of gravity, he's so fast.
He just moves.
Yeah.
And it's not only that he's scoring great tries; he's scoring very, very significant tries. There was that very late winner. I can't remember who
Gloucester,
they played.
maybe?
Yeah, was it Gloucester?
Yeah, it was Gloucester. Yeah, and he just has a knack of big moments.
Well, look, when your number one winger isn't Adam Radwan, you must be an incredible specimen. Because he is incredible in his own right. Some of the tries that Carrera scores are exactly the sort of tries that Radwan was scoring 2 years ago.
Their footwork, their stature, their footwork, their speed is nearly identical.
Yeah, it is.
They are remarkable.
They'll have a good sevens team, Newcastle.
Have you got the table there, Phil?
I do.
What's the points difference between 4th and 11th?
So everything has closed up. So currently in 4th is Leicester on 28 points, and in 11th it's Bath on 19 points.
Bloody hell!
So you got
a 9-point
point spread between the top 4.
Wow!
But with as you mentioned before, the top 3 losing to the bottom 3, everything has just closed up.
Yeah.
Or what was the bottom 3? Bath are
I
bottom.
think I'm right in saying, just as I said that Gloucester and Leicester have played 6 away games, so we'll have 6 home games in the second half of the season. Sale and Quinns have played 6 home games, so they will be on the road more so. So they could be taken, they could be caught.
They could be. That's a bad loss for them at Newcastle.
Yeah.
They don't have.
But they haven't won at Newcastle for a while. They keep losing there, so it's a really hard place to go.
Exactly, it's not the first time that they've done this. Far from it, actually.
There was the game they lost up there when they were trying to get into the top 4. If you remember, they missed out on the playoffs. I think.
Now
was that after they were partying in the student halls?
It could have been during that period.
There was one about Christmas time.
Yeah.
Cam Neild played hooker, and it just went horribly, horribly wrong. And it wasn't at Newcastle; it was at the AJ Bell. It just went. It was an awful game. It was absolutely tipping down, and King of the North didn't get it done that day.
The Saracens' defeat was probably the one that we would have seen coming less.
Really?
No one would have got an accumulator on this weekend.
Oh, no chance.
On this run of games.
I wouldn't have bet my money on it, but it doesn't surprise me in any way that London Irish can beat Saracens. London Irish are what Sale were 7 years ago or 8 years ago when we started the pod, which is a team low down the table, best team with ball in hand. They are an incredible attacking side when they want to be, but they don't do anything else really.
Let's talk about the Ben Earl red card.
Oh God! So
I can't really remember
first
it,
red card, the Coleman red card,
100%,
100% red card.
Yeah.
The Ben Earl one, that felt to me was it Matt? It's so long ago. Was that Matt
Carley?
Yeah, it totally felt to me that he was evening things up. Like, I'm sure he wasn't consciously and deliberately doing it, but subconsciously. Because was it Pearson who was carrying the ball?
Tom Pearson, I think. Yeah.
He was as high as that coffee table off the ground. He was about 2 foot. His head was about 2 foot off the ground.
Yeah.
Now Ben Earl does. He has a chicken wing. He's got a tucked arm, but I actually think that's more because he wasn't expecting to make a tackle. But there was definite mitigation because
100%.
He's 2 foot off the ground. I found that an astonishing decision. And the weirdest thing was Carley went through all of the other questions, but he never asked, is there any mitigation? So if you've got a process that says, right, is it with force? is it reckless? Is it a penalty? I can't remember off the top of my head. But you got a series of questions to ask, and he just missed out the one question that would give you the correct outcome, which was a yellow card.
Yeah,
I found it really, really weird.
It generally shocks me when referees get stuff wrong.
I could
because
even
it's so infrequent.
Yeah,
so infrequent.
Yeah, fair. I could even understand the perspective of people saying that even a yellow card would have been too harsh, because what else can Ben Earl do?
Well, yeah, now I do kind of. Carly said it was I can't remember the dominant hit, because Ben Earl did accelerate into it. So yeah, if you've got time to accelerate, maybe you can pull out. But I just, to me, it just looked like a yellow card offence, and I was just really, really surprised.
Bearing in mind, but yeah, sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say London Irish. So they were down to 14 men for 65 minutes, although Ben Earl evened it out. But then they were back down to 12 men for most of the last 10 minutes, or about 15. And they held out.
Yeah, they held out and scored even.
Did they score in that period as well?
Jack, I
can't remember the.
Tom Pearson.
They did.
They did. Tom Pearson scored a try in that period.
The Cunningham South try.
Cunningham South. That's it.
Yeah,
that's it. London Irish only allow double-barrelled names to score.
Yes,
with Hassel Collins and Cunningham South.
Absolutely.
So I understand that Ben Loder's about to sign a new deal
with Irish.
Great.
So
Hassel Collins has gone to Leicester.
Yeah.
Tom Parton.
Saracens.
He's gone Saracens.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we have spoke about that, but I forgot about it. That's a great signing for Sarries. A great signing for Sarries. But mind you, you've got so many of these guys. What does it matter?
Well,
Arundel's coming back.
Stokes, Arundel.
For Irish,
Loader, they've got Will Joseph, to name but a few.
Well, Irish have got the production line of talent, whereas Saracens, you've got Good. So Malin's going. Good is another year older. Great Mates is another year older. He's probably 34 now.
He must be, yeah.
Still going well, but they're going to have to replace someone.
Well, Daly's not a young man either.
Daly's probably 30, 31.
Yeah.
The one that we've not, I don't think we've seen a single second of him this year. Rotimi Shegun.
Oh yeah.
Very, very talented. I'm sure we've not seen a single second of him this year.
They've sent Elliot Obertin. Obertoyimboy, that's it. To Newcastle.
Yeah.
Obertoyimboy to Newcastle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, actually. Who are the Saracens up-and-comers? Because they feel like a very old squad all of a sudden. So even the people that I think are really young, like Lazowski must be 28.
Yeah. The Vunipolas are both in their 30s now.
Tompkins, probably similar age.
The backs that are younger are guys like Manu Vunipola, who...
Yeah.
And,
have they played for
no,
a while?
Who's the name of the centre? Don Morris?
Morris, yeah.
But they haven't come through in the way that, say, some of the London Irish players have come through and made the first team shirt their own. There aren't too many young Saracens guys that have come through and made the team.
I wonder if there's an element of people mature late in Saracens because you're there to win. You're not there to do flashy things. You're not there to sort of throw the ball about.
Or could it be that their first 15 is so good?
Well, that's what I mean. Like, it's kind of like the AC Milan thing where you are professionals. You're professionals of 20 plus years, and you're in your late 30s, and that's why you're able to do these things and have that discipline. So that could be a reason, because it can't be an easy. I mean, even if you do nail down a spot, and even if you are the best person in the club, they still rotate you. So you don't get the consistent run of games that you might if you're in Irish or wherever, Bath or somewhere else.
Yeah, agreed.
But yeah, it's a fair point though. That Saracen squad it is starting to look its age, very much so, and with missing a few players as well.
Still away at the top of the table, but yeah, great win for London Irish.
And Saracen's first loss of the season.
Yeah,
is it?
Yeah.
They win both the European Cup games.
Yep. So they've won. I think they've won 12. They've won 12 games. No, they've won 11 games up until that point.
They might have lost the Premiership Rugby Cup game. Don't follow that.
Oh yeah.
But if there was a club that I would trust to have more players and for their process to work independently of salary cap breaches, if that makes sense, it would be Saracens. I kind of think we should make a little exception for them now to have more players so they can go and represent the Premiership and win European Cups on a regular basis.
So they've been a fairly handy production line for England as well.
Yeah,
over the years,
staggering,
and other countries as well.
Oh, and McFarlane's out for the season. That is a huge blow.
Massive.
That is a massive loss. That is because he might have been on the Premiership team of the season up to halfway.
Oh
as well.
yeah, he would have been player of the season. He would have been one of the names we didn't mention in the player of the season.
I've got criticism of him though. and that is he slows down. When he's going to score a try, he'll slow down on purpose to dive in the corner.
To make it look better.
And I don't like that. I think you just score. Just score.
Another guy who might have been as well, Bernard Jancy von Rensburg. He could be in the team of the season.
Yeah, he's doing great things.
He's been a really good signing for Irish.
Agreed.
I like him and his mullet.
Okay, so the game you not spoke about yet, Quins versus Bristol. Have not seen a second of this yet.
What did Joe Marler say?
Good question.
Right, yeah. Do you want to break this whole situation down a bit?
Yeah, they're just lining up for a scrum.
Yeah.
So they're packing down. So Jake Heenan's on the open side flank, so he's on Joe Marler's side. So he's just within earshot. The referee Carl Dixon is right there.
Yeah.
I don't know if the mics muted because of or you
don't know. I wasn't watching. I've only seen it. I wasn't watching live.
Whether they cut it, whether they did the dump button on the audio, or whether you just couldn't pick it up, I can't quite be clear on. But Joe Marler said something. I think it either concerned. I've seen some people saying
his wife.
Some people saying it concerned his wife. Some people saying it concerned his mother.
So
his mother, who's allegedly ill.
Well, there's two different ways to look at this. Okay, if it is a generic mother quotes, who cares? Like so, I don't know. He's been done in the scrum. And Heenan says, "Oh, push harder," and he goes, "Yeah, I will on your mum tonight," or something like that. Not bothered. But if it's like a tailored sort of personal thing, which he's found out and said, "Hey, such and such," that's a different thing. And I think there is a distinct line to draw here because the first one goes on rugby pitches all the time. If you let it wind you up and you're the one that loses your head, you deserve the card. Nobody else.
100%.
You're an idiot. But if I know, for instance, like your brother's got cancer or something horrendous
yeah,
like that,
yeah.
I was like, how's your dying brother, mate? Yeah. Well, then
that is different.
It's different, isn't it?
It's very, very different. The premeditated nature of something like that makes it hugely different.
So I really need to know, like, what the context was. If it's just a generic quote, everyone needs to be told to grow up now. Just grow up and play the game. It's your fault. And retrospectively, just go and ban Heenan. But you also. Yeah, actually, it doesn't really matter what's going on in your personal life. It's part of the game. You need to deal with that.
Well, there are limits there, I would say.
Well, but I think I've hopefully drawn.
You've drawn the line.
The line as to where these limits are,
and you know it when you hear it.
Yes, exactly. Like the Supreme Court's definition of porn, we know it when we see it. I'm not sure if that is actually.
They did a lot of research before they came up with that line.
Now, the other element of this is Joe Marler and the continual circus which is around him. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I really do like Joe Marler, but I also find him incredibly irritating. So I like him as a bloke. I've interviewed him. I spoke to him on a few occasions. I do really like him. I do find like some of the things though a little bit tedious now. Yeah, like I've used the example of the Sarah interview.
Yeah,
what a rubbish interview, and it was nothing to do with the interviewer.
I loved his horse.
The horse thing was funny.
The horse thing was very funny.
Yeah, and sometimes he gets it right, sometimes he gets it wrong. BT Sport didn't need to be showing that Sarah thing. It's rubbish. It's just annoying. That was a really annoying clip. And he is sometimes annoying, but sometimes he's not. And you've got to sort of take it in both.
There aren't many people like Joe Marler. He's a very unique character, so I embrace it in the way I used to love Nick Cummins. And
I really didn't like Nick Cummins, you see.
I loved him.
And also, he was caught out because his off-the-cuff sayings were easily findable on a quick Google search. So
he prepares.
Yeah, he prepares, but then he says that he's like one of those the online personal trainers that's on gear, but they never tell you.
Like someone going to a website for their best man speech.
Yeah, it is. But then telling,
but there's nothing wrong with that if it has the desired effect.
Well, no. If he says but he's been asked this, do you prepare? He goes, no, it's just off the top of my head. No, it's not. Okay, and that's the difference. So it's like the online personal trainers say, yeah, just work really hard and you can look like me, but they're on loads and loads of juice. It's just not the same thing. It's not real. Joe Marler, for the record, is real. Which is why sometimes it goes wrong, sometimes it goes right.
Exactly. He's a complex man. He's unique. He has come out and said, "Yes, I do need to apologise. I'm sorry."
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, I saw him. He actually did apologise because Stephen Luatua copied Joe Marler in, and Joe Marler said, "I apologise. Yeah. I was wrong."
I think if Stephen Luatua strikes me as a
no nonsense kind of guy,
but also kind of old school values a little bit. You can imagine Stephen Luatua, if it wasn't past that line of acceptability, Stephen Luatua would just go, mate, let it go. We won the game. It doesn't matter. Forget about it.
I can't.
But the fact that Stephen Luatua, after the game, after they'd won, said, I think you need to apologise.
We had
a strike. Makes me think it was beyond whatever line that is.
We had a situation the other day at Didsbury Tock H where one of our opposition was losing his head completely, and we just couldn't work out why this guy was, just losing it. And his teammates are calming him down and whatnot. Anyway, turns out it's first game back from death of a close family member. So these things do happen. The thing which we can't work out why this has upset him so much or what we've done. Indeed, if we did anything, maybe we didn't. People do play with these things. It's hard to know. I don't like the idea. So if Joe Marler's gone out of his way to do research to find something else and then sledge him, he deserves everything which is coming. I just don't think it's that. I just think it's a really unfortunate incident.
That's what
clumsy rather than
exactly.
It may be cruel at the same time as being clumsy, but clumsy rather than cruel.
Yeah, and it's just really unfortunate actually because that's what that player. I mean, I'm sure Jay Heenan's not particularly happy with the fact that will be known as the game where he's lost his head because of something which is said about something when he's in a bit of a down place.
Well, the really good thing about rugby generally, and I again, coaching a team of 14, 15-year-olds, I do say this quite a lot. When we have some guys that, and I've talked about it before, we have some guys who've had, who've seen some things growing up, and rugby's a brilliant outlet for them. And that's one of the things I always say to them is take all those feelings right now, and you can go and put it into that next tackle.
Exactly right.
And rugby's great for that.
The last thing I'd say is I also don't like the sort of idea that Joe Marler has spoke about. I mean, God, how much do I hate mental health? I don't need to tell you how much I hate the mental health initiatives which riddle rugby and all the grifters that attach themselves to it. But
Joe Marler makes campaigning and speaking up about that a virtue.
Yeah. So,
and this is where if it was anyone else, it might just pass us by. But this is why if it bubbles on, this is why.
Well, yeah, there is a sort of point there. But I don't like sort of the gotcha moment. I think it's perfectly reasonable that you can sledge people on the field to get a competitive advantage, like hundreds of thousands of rugby players have done before him, and also care about these things, even though I hate the subject, and the constant talking about it is doing more harm than good. Even though I believe that, I don't think that it invalidates what he's trying to do, even though I think it's completely invalid. But that's a completely different conversation.
Well, while we're on that and on kind of not crusades, that's not the right word, but strong feelings you have towards.
Please don't get me talking about this.
No.
Oh, good.
It's an email responding to the last podcast.
Please.
Where do you remember you were talking about the suggested law change of the navel tackles below the navel? For
oh yes, please.
Well, Dougie from the Maulover podcast.
Good old Dougie.
He's emailed contact@eggchasers@gmail.com and says, chaps, yada yada, all the usual preamble. I listened as ever to your pod last week while travelling home from the darts at Ali Pali, my second home in December. He is works as a cameraman, sometimes director on various broadcasts. Rugby, I work a lot with him on BT Sport, but he works on the darts as well. He says, darts, for all its perceived ills, is one of sport's great success stories. A group of pub-bound men in a hall with ale flowing lean into what the people who watch it enjoy and now has representation worldwide.
It's not wrong, is he?
Crowds on a nightly basis that will be the envy of almost all Premiership clubs and a thriving junior, women's and feeder circuit. Compare and contrast with rugby union, a sport embarrassed of its own shadow, ashamed of its past, alienating its base and doing it all it can to become something other than itself. It's heartbreaking. As you know, or maybe not, I helped produce, or rather helped produce a podcast for a little less time than you guys, but that ship has sailed. Oh no! Keep going.
I didn't know that.
Keep going, boys.
Oh.
Keep going, boys. What am I going to listen to?
Exactly.
Come on. No. Anyway, all four of us play.
You must have re-listened to your moon landing denial podcast now, like so many times. You need a break. You need something else.
So, Dougie goes on and says, all four of us, the guys on Maulover, all four of us play and have coached local rugby, have travelled the world to play and watched the game we loved, and have shared experiences thanks to the game that will be indelibly etched into our memory, but no more. Oh, man. So let me just finish. As a group, we've all stopped watching the game. We can't bring ourselves to devote time to a game that's unrecognisable from the thing that pulled us in. Our children will probably be led away from the game, and therefore multiple generations will no longer be involved in the sport. JB's intimation that the latest rule change may mean the same for him really hit hard. Having met JB a couple of times on my work trips to Sale, I can honestly say I've never met a more enthusiastic rugby man. If the game is close to losing him, it's dead.
Wow.
And for what? A desire to be the perceived moral compass for sport as a whole, the arbitrator of sporting safety, and then he mentions the concussion thing. Dougie, reconsider that decision about your own pod, but JB, what do you want to say on that?
I want to say lots of things, okay? Because I want to save this bit for a Patreon podcast. But as it's been brought up by a listener, I wouldn't mind going into it now, but it's completely up to you boys. It does link very well. Is there anything else to say about any of the other games?
We not mentioned Exeter. They got a
resounding win against Bath.
Relatively routine. It wasn't resounding.
No, it wasn't
20 points
resounding.
to 15.
They had to dig deep to win that one, but they won. They'll be pleased about that, relieved.
Yeah, and I think Bath were banging on the door towards the end of it as well.
Yeah,
Bath had a few good comebacks late on in games, but it wasn't to be for them in this one. So ultimately a good win for Exeter. And that's it. We've mentioned all the other games.
Yeah, we didn't go into depth on the games too much. It was hard to see all of them.
And some of them were like 5 days ago from where we're sat now. So
take all that with a pinch of salt. And
yes,
should we wind JB up and let him go?
Yeah, okay. So
we're going to do it now, or we're going to do it on Patreon?
We'll just do it now, I guess.
Okay, let's go now.
Okay, so like all good conspiracy theorists, if you're going to have a good conspiracy, you've got to get lots of strands from lots of different places and tie them together. That's how these conspiracy theories work. And I've successfully done this in my mind. And it was all based, really, on something which Tim said about the two-speed future of rugby, the amateur game and the pro game. So
what I said was that it feels like they're priming us for the split between the pro game and the amateur game, level 1, level 2, by having a different rule. The naval tackle for level 3 and below is psychologically, on a psychological level, splitting the game into two very distinct entities.
Exactly right. And in addition to that, and I need to think very carefully here because I've got to pull all these bits together.
Is anyone else imagining, got a vision in their head of Charlie from Always Sunny in Philadelphia with the board?
Who is Pepe or whatever it is?
Yeah, it's exactly that, right? It's exactly that. The other part of this is I've been thinking a lot about, I think Ethan, I can't remember his surname now, but he's the guy who spoke about fracking the pie, which is the concept I spoke about the other day, which is you don't grow your sport anymore, so instead of growing to new demographics, you then start to just drill in, and then you extract as much value from the consumer base as you possibly can. So I think we are currently seeing the unstitching of the amateur game, and they are doing this through numerous ways. The first way would be this below the naval tackle. Another really disturbing development,
which hasn't come in yet, it has to be said.
Hasn't come in.
It's only a leaked rumour.
It's only a leaked rumour, but
Charlie Morgan is normally pretty accurate with this kind of
Charlie
stuff.
Morgan says it. It's
true.
It's
being discussed.
Yeah. Whether it
as
comes
a
into
minimum,
force, I don't know.
Yeah.
The other one, which is really concerning, is the reduced numbers rugby which they're bringing in. This is a Welsh thing. But also, if you look at the RFU, they've got guidance about how you play reduced numbers rules too. And this is really concerning. And I can just see this is going to be the basis for future discussions, because the logic now is we need these reduced rules in order to keep the game active, and so you've got something to do on the weekend. But that exact same philosophy can be used for, well, we need to lower the tackle height, because if we don't lower the tackle height, then we won't have enough players because people don't want that contact option. And it's also the exact same logic which has been used when they're pushing touch rugby onto clubs, because we need something for people to do on the weekends, and if you don't have touch, then we're going to lose players, and actually that's just going to deplete rugby clubs even further.
And with the lack of front row players, they've been coming up with frameworks where you can have no scrums.
There we go. So you've got all of these sort of little chipping away at rugby, all under the guise of, it's got to be sustainable. And I think the ultimate goal for people in charge, maybe not the RFU itself as written down, but the ultimate goal is to get rid of contact completely from the amateur game. Because I truly believe that the RFU don't want more rugby players, but they are desperate for more rugby consumers. And rugby players don't make good rugby consumers. A lot of people that play rugby are not consuming the pro game. There's a few reasons for this. It's because we're playing at the time. It could be just we've lost interest. There could be many, many reasons. Now, perversely, the RFU has a real issue, which is what it is telling its advertisers compared to what it actually has. So I was checking this out today with some commercial bods in the RFU. Just asking them, am I on something? And effectively, I am. So when they're doing like pitch decks and whatnot to advertisers, there are rules as to what they can show on the pitch deck. You can not show too many men. You have to have a certain amount of women. You have to have a certain amount of people with different skin colours, yada, yada, yada. Because what they want to show to the advertisers is a completely different face to what rugby really is. Now, rugby, I say perversely, because I've just said rugby players don't make good rugby consumers. Rugby's core demographic is people that used to play the game. And this just isn't a very attractive proposition to the RFU when they're selling it. Because who do you have? Well, you have the stereotype of a rugby player who plays in England. Now, that generally is a slightly larger man. It could be a slightly louder man. It's usually a white man. It could be a privately educated man. These are just people that are not very cool in their eyes. So you can already start to see why the importance of the women's game is there now, because they need to show the advertisers, well, look, we've got more women. Now, the easy way to square this circle for the RFU would be say, well, if we make the grassroots game so open and so non-contacty that anyone can play, we can get around this problem, because we can get loads of rugby consumers playing a game which superficially looks like rugby, but it's not. Anyone can play. We can open it up, but then they can go and watch the rugby themselves. And I think there's some sort of thinking within the RFU now, which goes like, the way to grow the game, quote unquote, is to kill it at grassroots, and therefore we can actually get a more diverse range of people in watching and consuming, which will be more valuable to the top tier of rugby. And I'm certain there's something like that going on. And just coincidentally, looking at all of the law changes and what the commercial guys are telling me about their pitch decks and how they are selling to advertisers, it does sort of stack up. The one thing which I've not been able to sort of establish, or I have established, I should say, is that everybody thinks that the RFU is completely incapable of such long-term competent thinking. So if this is a thing which is trying to happen, it'd be amazing if they could stitch together all of these different bits.
Yeah, this narrative requires them to be playing 4D chess, and they can't even play tic-tac-toe.
Yeah, exactly.
But what I find quite compelling about your thought is, put aside the competence of the people involved to have a long-term strategy, putting the corporate money, trying to generate as much corporate money from giant multinational companies as you can. If you put that at the very forefront, then I think it makes sense there. And because those levers that are being exerted right now, I mean, it's... I
mean, you just got to look at how embarrassed the RFU are of rugby itself. I've made this point before. They don't sing Swing Low. They got rid of the Saxons.
Well, no, the people at Twickenham do sing.
Well, yes,
swing low. But the people in the RFU try and encourage them not to.
Exactly, because they're embarrassed of what they already have. And when the RFU has got its dual role of selling the game to advertisers, but also regulating the game with the grassroots, you can't tell me that those two things are treated equally. They might say so, but they're not. So they have this amazing legacy of this incredible community game. I'm like, why don't we just unstitch that? Because ultimately, these guys are business people. I know the RFU Council is not that, and the RFU Council makes a lot of decisions, but at the top of the RFU, they are business people. Nothing would make them happier than to see revenues grow and be at the head of an organisation like the NFL. I mean, why would you not want that? And it'd be so much easier, because the ultimate stalking horse for all of this are the concussion activists who are targeting the grassroots game now. And they think they're holding the governing bodies accountable. They think when they say, oh, you're acting like big tobacco, or you're really reckless with the amateur players, or this, that, and the other, that they're somehow holding the RFU to account. They're not. They're working hand in glove with the RFU. They might not realise it, but it's the perfect weapon to say, actually, we need to stop all this contact nonsense now. We need something completely different. The RFU can't get enough of it. I mean, that would be the perfect excuse just to stop everything. Here is your rugby. Consume that. Buy the tickets. Wear the shirt. You can watch it, but you can't play it. And I think that is the future.
But if that is their plan, they've miscalculated, because it will just kill the game.
There will be nothing left.
Yeah, there will be nothing left to sell to anyone, because no one will consume anything.
Well, I don't even know what the point of the governing body is at that point. Why can't I just start my own governing body, by the way?
Well, you could do if you wanted.
What would stop me?
There's probably a million health and safety forms to put in place.
In them. I mean,
no, from like a
what if I just decide
governmental.
not to do that?
Well, you'd have to find. So you could do it in North Korea.
But like,
you'd have to find a country where you're not going.
I'd love to know what the if you know the legalities of this. I'm sure I know a couple of solicitors that can tell me this, who work in sports law. But if we just raised two teams of 15, why could we not play each other?
You could do
on a field. What is stopping you doing that?
You'd be able to do that. So I think you'd be able to do that. But then if you're going to put a sports body in place, I would assume there will be some legislation in place that would set certain standards for that governing body. Yeah,
I love the way your mind
meet in a park.
Yeah,
you'd be able to do that.
I love the way your mind works, JB, and I think I think there is some merit in what you're saying, whether it's conscious or not conscious, whether it's led by the money and I think there's an argument to say that will be the effect, deliberate or by design or as a consequence.
Yeah, and I also think now this is going to.
I mean, what I do believe is that they will miscalculate. It's like I have to believe that the you will own nothing and you will be happy aims of the World Economic Forum that they are going to backfire because people aren't going to go along with the ridiculous claims they've got. But the you will play nothing and you will be happy. People with rugby aren't going to have it.
Well, the concussion catastrophists, as we should call them, I mean, they are really doing God's work for the RFU if this is the case going forward. Because I think they're desperate to unstitch rugby culture. I think they're desperate to. I don't think they really care about concussions, to be honest. Like, there are some people who are in the concussion space who do deeply care about it. I'll mention the guy now, Ross Tucker, if you read his tweets and stuff. And people
listen to the Science of Sport podcast.
Yeah, they clearly deeply care about the outcomes.
Yeah,
the players' unions deeply care about the outcomes. Do I deeply care about the outcomes? No, not really. I mean, I just don't. And I think a lot of players are in my sort of mind space like, no, we just don't. But I think the people who are the most vocal about concussions, providing they've not been brainwashed in like a late. Or late converters, but people from outside the sport who go around holding up posters and telling you that you like big tobacco, I actually think their goal is to unstitch rugby because they see it as some sort of,
moral crusade. Yeah,
moral crusade. Like, oh, men shouldn't be grouping together like that. That is a power structure, or that's something overly masculine.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think there's
something like that going on. Something very peculiar.
I think there's a lot of, again, apologies, someone who studied psychology, but I think it's always projection. It is, isn't it? I'm sure if you got someone on a couch and dug into their past, there's something that went on with them that means they resent those type of people.
I am certain if I go onto someone's Facebook, like one of the prominent concussion campaigners, I'm pretty sure that all of the other campaigns that they're interested in and they share on their social media will be exactly what you think. Like, exactly what you think. They will think in a certain way. They'll have a certain outlook on life.
There probably was some trauma, whether it's, who knows what it was. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure there is some good intent somewhere, but the road to hell can be paved with good intentions.
Well, I've got a lot more to say about these concussion campaigners. I'm not going to waste that now, but I think there is a lot to talk about here because they've been acting, in my view, incredibly immorally. And as soon as I get to put these parts of the jigsaw together, we'll have one hell of a podcast.
Oh, that little corkboard with all the bits of string going in all directions.
There was some very immoral behaviour going on.
Right. Thank you for listening. Nice one, JB. I appreciate that, mate.
Whoa, one second.
I have to go to the loo.
1 second.
We'll do. Well, you mentioned Tim. You go to the loo.
If anyone wants a beer with me in Gloucester, I'm
on
going
New
to the
Year's
Gloucester London Irish
Yeah.
Gloucester London Irish game. So find me on Twitter or email me, and I'll meet you for a pint if you are around the Kingsholm area. And I think I'm going to be hanging out with Jamal Ford Robinson
That will be quite exciting.
for the day.
That will be very good.
Indeed.
So should we do predictions? Because I don't
Yes, do
think
it.
we actually did them this week. So predictions on Friday night. Is that tomorrow? No, I've no idea what day it is. 28th today, as we record this. So on the 30th, in 2 days' time, Friday night, Sale host Leicester. Feeling confident about this, JB?
Oh no! I was meant to be on Radio Leicester tonight. I completely forgot. I got.
Oh no!
No!
Oh no!
I was there to be a Sale fanboy and tell the listeners of bloody BBC Leicestershire that it'll be close, you'll do well, but Leicester will ultimately spunk you boys. Sorry, Sale will ultimately spunk you boys.
Yeah.
Where's this game being held?
AJ Bell.
Oh, give me Sale. Cheers.
Sale. With fly half of the season.
Rob
Dupree
world's best fly off.
pulling the strings. I think Leicester. Although Sale, they've got to correct whatever happened in Newcastle.
100%. I think they will as well.
It'll be a good game, that. Good arm wrestle. Then on Saturday, we've got Bath hosting Newcastle.
Bath hosting Newcastle. Ooh.
Bath.
Newcastle.
We have Saracens hosting Exeter. The Cheats versus the Racists.
Yeah,
the
Cheats.
Classic fixture.
Yes. Tim, you're back. Cheats or racists? Who have you got?
Fixtures for this next weekend.
Saracens.
Saracens.
Ooh, he's going for the cheats. I'm going to go for the racists.
I'm going to go Saracens. Saracens to right the wrongs of last week. Then Gloucester host London Irish, which is the game that you'll be at, JB.
Yep. So
Good game to be at that.
do you know what?
The Skivington Bowl.
Skivington Bowl.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to Gloucester.
Last week was Skivington Bowl as well.
When
anyway,
was last week?
Leicester.
Leicester.
Isn't Gloucester?
I know he didn't play at
Wasps?
Leicester, but anyway.
Did you not? Did you?
No, he played at Leicester. He didn't play at Gloucester. Anyway,
Yeah, coach. Yeah.
he played Wasps, Leicester, London Irish.
Oh yeah, of course he did.
Anyway, sorry.
So the question is, can Gloucester shackle notorious Englishman Paddy Jackson?
Gloucester have potentially got an issue. They're back three. I hope Ollie Thorley did warm up with them.
Did he?
So hopefully he's fit. On the Leicester front, Andre Pollard was warming up.
Was he?
Interesting.
Was it? I was thinking about him
Watch this
today.
space.
Well, it'll be that 22 shirt. He'll fill that out nicely.
They're not going to sign Andre Pollard to be a backup. He'll be the boy. I hear lots of lovely things about him. Like everyone at Leicester is glowing about what a great bloke he is.
It's all intangible stuff, isn't it? It's like it's not dissimilar to the way Sanderson talks about Manu Tuolangi.
Or Gus War.
Yeah, or Gus War.
And also, if I'd spent 1.4 million pounds on like a new tractor, I'd be saying it's the best thing I've ever bought.
Yeah, it'd be. I mean, imagine if they weren't saying that at this point. He's a bit of a dick. I've heard the same, Tim. I've heard nothing but great reports.
And I've
also seen his highlight videos where he just crushes the ball over. So I don't know. I hope he does great things. I really do.
So do I. He's in my fantasy rugby draft team.
So I'm
He's still playing that. Who are you playing against?
You would have beaten Phil if you'd actually set a lineup this week.
Yeah,
Would I?
my team is dreadful. So I'm going for Gloucester at home to Irish.
Yeah, Gloucester.
And then exciting game if it was played under different conditions. Northampton host Harlequins on New Year's Day.
Why do you not think this will be exciting?
These are two slick tyre teams, and they're racing in the wet.
Yeah. Okay, fair. If it's dry, it'll be good then.
Yes.
I thought you were insinuating they're going to get battered on New Year's Eve or something.
Oh, but maybe.
That's what I thought you were.
Finsanity from both sides.
Oh, Finn Russell signed for Bath.
We did talk about that.
We'll talk about it next week.
Yeah.
No, we did talk about it.
Oh, did we?
Last week.
Last week.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Give me.
That's a tough one to call. That.
Oh no, it's
That's
not.
really tough.
I think Harlequins are the more complete team.
They are. But they only played
Saints
last
at
night.
home.
They've got a 4-day turnaround for that.
It's fine. They're professionals. Grow
Is that
up.
all? 4 days? Surely not.
4 days.
Must be 5.
They played yesterday,
Yeah.
so it's the 27th, 28th,
29th, 30th, 31st.
5 days.
Yeah,
5 day turnaround.
I was going to say, I'm sure.
It's a good shout, though. Good point, that. I'll go for Saints on that basis.
I'm going for Queens.
Saints.
There's far too much spoken about rugby teams not being able to turn it around in 5 days. Of course they can.
Big courts.
Sort it out. Excellent.
There you go. Right, I'm going to go and ice my ankle.
Right, you can take it home then, Tim.
All right. We are everywhere you get your podcast. Hit subscribe. We have extra content at patreon.com/EggChasers. Thank you very much for listening. Let the boys play.
The boys play.